So a new sheet of points values for the World Eaters Codex has just appeared on the internet, and it makes for quite interesting reading. The big question though is whether or not this is real or whether or not it is a fake. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where the focus for a while has been on the Imperial Guard getting their codex next, but we do know that after that are coming the World Eaters, presumably sometime in the new year. Details about this one are far less known at this point. We don't know what miniatures Games Workshop are even going to bring out for them yet, so if we did have a legitimate points value page from the codex, it'd be pretty interesting. The points are one thing, but just knowing the units and what you can field would be another. In any case, this reported leak has come from a World Eaters Facebook group apparently, supposedly from a WhatsApp source from a Games Workshop employee who had some sort of access to the codex in digital form, it would seem. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. We've certainly seen similar sort of leaks for things like the Tyranids codex in the past, and on face value it does look like the formatting kind of checks out. Everything is pretty much laid out how you'd expect it to be, plus some nice World Eaters kind of themed details around the corners of the pages, kind of similar for Games Workshop. If it is a fake, then someone's gone into a lot of time and effort to make it look right. I thought it would be interesting to take a look through the leak and then talk about the various issues that will pop up as we go along, and talk about how likely this is to be legitimate. First up, in the HQ section, things seem to be surprisingly light. Here we've got Khan the Betrayer at 140 points, Lord Invocatus at 160 points, the World Eater's Demon Prince at 130 points plus 35 for Wings, the World Eater's Lord on a Juggernaut at 125 points, and a World Eater's Master of Executions for 65. Lord Invocatus is that World Eater's Lord on Juggernaut that we knew was coming. Games Workshop has previewed the kit for them, and a fair few people have theorised that he will be able to build a standard World Eater's Lord on Juggernaut too, so that being there really wouldn't surprise me. Perhaps the more surprising choices out of this, though, are Master of Executions being in an HQ slot rather than an Elite. It's definitely not impossible, and Games Workshop could get a fair bit more mileage out of the model. Having a great big angry Chaos Space Marine with a big axe certainly isn't out of the scope of World Eaters. Perhaps the weirdest thing about this HQ section, though, is it looks like there's no choices for generic Chaos Lords for the World Eaters, which I think is one of the reasons that I have to doubt this leak a little bit more. The Thousand Suns don't get Chaos Lords because they have their sorcerers and all of the regular Space Marines got turned into dust, but it would be different to the Death Guard Codex, which does have Chaos Lords. I know Games Workshop likes to say no model, no rules and things, but I can't help but think that the World Eaters are still going to retain access to standard Chaos Lords, and particularly if they're using the Master of Executions, I see no real reason why they couldn't just use the generic Chaos Lord kits that they have already. Next up, we've got the troops, and of course Khorne Berserkers are here, at least listed in this one. The great big heavy chain axe type thing here is listed as a Khornate Eviscerator, which I guess sounds brutal enough for me. I'd guess either way it'll probably have a similar sort of profile to the one that you get on Chaos Legionaries these days. Otherwise, the other interesting bit are the Jackals. Again, if this one's going to be believed, then that will be the name for these unique cultists that we've seen lurking in the background of the Angron League. It was hard to see them in too much detail close up, but it looked like they were big and muscular cultists with really big brutal combat weapons. These guys are listed at 7 points per model. You can take 10 to 20, and there's the option to take a Jackal Icon, Mauler Chainblade, or Skull Masher, which is a great name. Again, if accurate, I would guess that they would be champion weapons. Again though, an odd omission with Chaos Cultists not being here. I would have guessed that they would have been, as they are for the Death Guard and the Thousand Suns, and particularly with a fairly recent kit out from Games Workshop. Next up, we've got the Elites, and again a surprisingly short section. This bit has the only real mystery about this point section, talking about something called 8 bound, 40 points per model units that can be filtered in squads of 3 to 6, so probably quite big, hulking and heavy. And there's also an option to field what looks like a variant with just 3 models in it, called Exalted 8 bound for 135 points. 8 is Khorne's lucky number, of course. I guess there could be some sort of big elite possessed type unit for the World Eaters. If that were the case, I guess I could see an argument for not including the new possessed in the codex, as they don't appear to be here, but again that's another strange one. The Terminators listed here are referred to as World Eaters Terminators as well, not referred to as Red Butchers Terminators, as again I would have guessed. I know it's not 100% guaranteed that Games Workshop are going to release an updated Terminator kit for the World Eaters, but seeing as the Death Guard got 2 sets of them and the Scarab Occult Terminators got 1, I would have said that if you were doing a World Eaters release, then Red Butcher's Terminators will be right at the top of the wish list for most people, and I'd be very surprised if Games Workshop didn't make some. The war gear listed here looks very much the same as the standard Terminator datasheet from Codex Chaos Space Marines, and if this really is accurate, I would guess that it would mean no new kit. Again, yet another thing why this leak looks a little bit fishy to me. Finally, for the rest of the codex sections, there's not a lot interesting to be honest. Only Spawn in the fast attack. The heavy support has the usual Chaos Space Marine armor type choices, though no Vindicator listed here, which will be a discrepancy with the Thousand Suns book. There's then the Helldrake and the Rhino, both units I would have guessed would probably remain, and the Lord of Skulls in the Lord of War spot. Another kit that I might have expected to pop up in the heavy support section might have been Mutilators. It did look like they teased us a part of the Mutilators back in one of the World Eaters previews, though I guess that's not entirely confirmed yet. I guess it's not impossible that could turn out to be a part of a big Chaos Possessed or something. Finally, of course, we have Angron himself. He's listed as 360 points here, which would be a little bit on the cheap side for a Primarch for what I would have guessed, though honestly not totally out of the realm of possibility. He's probably just going to be a dedicated combat melee murder machine, so wouldn't be throwing around things like psychic buffs or things like Magnus or Mortarion might be. Still though, for a Primarch, I would have been guessing in excess of 400 points. I certainly can't imagine them giving him a weak stat line when he's famed to be one of the most powerful melee combatants in 40k. So overall, I must admit I am a bit skeptical about this leak. The setup and the formatting does seem at least quite plausible. There's nothing absolutely barn door obvious that sticks out to make me think, yes, that's just photoshopped. Still though, to be honest, when you put it together, there's a whole load of things that make me think that this is just a bit dubious. There's no generic cultists, there's no generic Chaos Lord or Terminator Lord, there's no possessed like the Death Guard get, though admittedly I guess they could be folded into that 8-bound thing. The Mutilators aren't present despite us looking like we've seen an arm for one of them, and they could well be a unit that's returning with the Codex. It would fit in quite well. The page number at the bottom is also suspiciously 88 as well. I feel like if you were going to fake a World Eaters leak, then making it Khorne's lucky number twice would be quite a fun way to do it, but that would make it significantly shorter than quite a few of the codexes out at the moment. I believe it to be shorter than Thousand Suns and Death Guard, and certainly than most other 9th edition codexes. Angron's page number on this is also listed as 51, which I think is right at the front of the section. Mortarion and Magnus are listed at the back of their codexes. There's no section for any sort of points cost upgrade section, similar to what you get for, like, say, Imperial Knight Exalted Court upgrades or Necron Cryptek Arcana. Usually that is listed here with the points values. The Terminators not being designated as Red Butchers would be very disappointing, and I strongly suspect that they'd be coming. And also Angron is a fair bit cheaper than I would have guessed as a Demon Primarch. There is also just a general absence of anything else that we haven't seen at least hints for so far. I'd guess that, as with the Death Guard, we'll probably get a fair few minor support characters and things, and there's just not really anything new or surprising here, which, if we got a full leak of a codex this early, I wouldn't have been surprised if there were. Overall, putting all that together, I'm inclined to say that this is probably fake, and someone's just been having a bit of fun with Photoshop. I guess there are possibilities that while some of it could be fake, we could say we have the right unit names, for example, or it could be a very early draft or a playtest copy where there weren't even necessarily all the right units there, but still that just seems a little bit unlikely to me. Let me know what you think though, and any other clues as to whether or not it is real or a fake. I look forward to hearing your thoughts as always down in the comments. A big thank you to all you guys who helped piece it together as well on the Auspex Tactics Discord too. It was certainly really helpful to have a bunch of insights coming really quickly. In any case, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. We'll certainly cover any more World Eaters leaks or previews that we get, and I'd guess that whenever Games Workshop does get around to revealing something more, it'll quickly show us whether or not this was on the money or not. Feel free to subscribe or stay tuned if you'd like to see more. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, which you can find linked down in the video description along with the Discord server. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.